Mayor Rod Rodham talks of how the town of Blacksburg hopes to preserve historic structures.
About 10 years ago, with the Historic Overlay District, we passed an overlay district that takes a look at the 16 squares, but it expands it a little further, and structures that when we started the district were over 50 years old, so contributing structures to the historic fabric of the district. The district has always been voluntary. So if you wanted to put an addition on, or if you wanted to change anything, you would submit a plan to the Historic Review Board. They would look at that plan, they would make suggestions. To give you an example, and this was not a tear down that was the historic structure, but the new hotel downtown. They submitted their plans to the Historic Review Board. The Historic Review Board made some suggestions, which they went ahead and incorporated that, and I think it came out to be a much better project. And every time I go by that hotel, I love it. I look over everything, and that's what we want to see in downtown Blacksburg. So that's been the history of it. There's only one part within that ordinance that is mandatory, and that's demolition. If you want to tear down a contributing structure, you have to get permission of the review board. If the review board does not grant you permission, you can appeal to the town council or wait a year, put it on fair market value, and if it doesn't sell within a year, you can get a demolition permit. There's a recent one that was requested at the Taylor Frame Shop, which got us to thinking about, with that year period, if something is torn down, it's important to at least have a discussion of what goes back. Plus, I think what we were trying to do is, I think council and maybe the review board would have been more open to discussing a historic structure if they knew what was going to go there, and if they knew it was going to have to go there, whatever was presented. So where we're in the throes of now, we've come up with a mandatory review if something is demolished that is contributing. There were some very legitimate concerns and questions brought up, one in particular, and as we look at it, was what happens if a contributing structure is demolished by fire or some sort of act of nature like that. Is it fair to have to go through this? How do you decide what goes back? So these are small things that we need to work out, and so we put together a task force, and they're working on that now. The task force is made up of council members, planning commission members, residents of the district, and people that own contributing structures within the district. So that's where we are. We're trying to make it so that we can continue to have discussions about the fabric of our historic district, but at the same time be fair and open to there's so many reasons why an historic district, I think, is important. It not just for the architecture, but when you look at your downtown, when you look at a historic area, it's the fabric of that area that adds to your quality of life. It adds to the quality of life within it and around it, and I think it is always good to remember where we have been to get to this point, and a historic district helps us remember that. I think that there are people who like to live in historic districts. I know there are people who like to live within those areas. A good friend of mine is a real estate developer in Baton Rouge, and everybody says, well, if you're in a historic district, your property values will go down. And he continues to buy property in historic districts. He said it goes up because you kind of know what you're getting into. People like stability, they like known quantities. So I think there are just a lot of different reasons why it's important to protect those structures and to protect kind of that fabric of that neighborhood.
The mayor also spoke of Blacksburg's historic 16 blocks.
They set up the original charter for Blacksburg. It was set up in 16 blocks, and that's the original, kind of the original town. And there are kind of quaint, not quite, but parts to it that are unique in that if you look at the 16 squares, there are lots of T's and dead ends because it went into other areas. So it's the core of where we started.
For the NRV Hub, Jenna Nichols, Blacksburg.